Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of BB Outdoors. Today, uh, we've had about 2 weeks straight of non-stop rain, and I have not been able to get any good fishing videos out for you guys. But I have a tournament video coming probably Monday night. The tournament's on Sunday at CJ Brown, and I figured I haven't put a video out in a little bit, and I'd like to go over my full rod and reel arsenal for 2024. So this is going to be breaking down all of my rods and reels for 2024, what I'm using, why I use it, what I use it for, stuff like that. So I hope you enjoy the video. Please like, subscribe, and stay tuned. Alright, so first I'm going to be going over my jerkbait / topwater rod. This is the St. Croix 6/8 medium extra fast legend tournament, and this is a phenomenal rod. Let me get that out of the way first. I'm not much of a jerkbait fisherman, I'll be honest with you guys. I don't fish a lot of jerkbaits. I know they're effective. My biggest smallmouth ever came on a jerkbait, but in tournaments, on lakes, the times that we fish, I find jerkbaits to not really be my strong suit, so I go for other stuff instead of jerkbaits, right? That being said, on a kayak, you got to prioritize. I can't take 20 rods with me as much as I would like to. I only take 10. This is not only a jerkbait rod, it is also a phenomenal topwater rod. And what I mean when I say topwater rod, I'm not talking about giant dogs, giant spooks. I'm talking about my Rio Ricos, bullet pops, small whopper ploppers, small spooks like Super Spook Junior. This rod is phenomenal for it. Very responsive. It doesn't need to be sensitive, but it kind of is. It really puts a great walk in a walking bait, if that makes any sense. On here, as far as the reels, I have a Daiwa Tatula SV TW70. Smaller reel size is key when it comes to this stuff. I'm throwing light topwaters. A Rico, not the Rio Rico, a regular Rico, very, very, very small. When you're throwing those small poppers, small topwaters, you want to have a small reel. You want to have that SV spool rather, in order to get it out as far as possible, make the most out of every cast. On here, I have 10-pound Power Pro, 10-pound, I believe it's Trilene makes a topwater, what's the word? A topwater composite line, right? It's not monofilament, it's not fluorocarbon, it's some sort of composite. So that's what's on here, and then I just have a Lucky Craft jerkbait tied on here at the moment. So let's get on to the next one. Alright, on to my next rod. This is one of three glass rods that I carry with me. This is a Mojo Bass Glass. This is the 7.2 Heavy Moderate. Give you guys a decent look there. And this is a rod that, it's the newest rod in my arsenal. I kept being out on the water and realizing I was missing this inventory slot on my arsenal, if that makes any sense. Pulling chatterbaits through heavy grass, very deep cranking, like 15 plus feet, right? I kept finding that, I need like a heavy, moderate, very responsive glass rod. And that's what, I've always thought, hey, first of all, I've had a Mojo Bass Glass in the medium moderate forever. It's my unbelievably good square bill rod, unbelievably good DT, let's say 8 and less rod. And I've loved my Mojo Glass series. Unfortunately, they are retired. They're discontinued now. So I thought, while they're still available, let me pick up this heavy model, see how I like it. On here, I have tied on a big blade chatterbait. And that's kind of what this rod is used for. Not the big blades specifically, but just chatterbaits, spinnerbaits, swim jigs. Stuff that there might be heavier cover. I might need more power to drive that really heavy wire jig hook through a bass's mouth. The heavy makes a big difference. I have a medium heavy, and heavy glass rods. Any sort of moving bait, except I'll give it the notable exception of topwaters and a buzzbait, I pretty much throw on a glass rod. They're kind of falling out of favor with a lot of people, if I'm being honest with you. Glass rods, you don't see a ton of people using them. Famously, my friend Chris Anderson uses them pretty regularly, and he and I are the only people I know that consistently use glass rods for moving baits. I love them. If you have not researched the benefits of using a glass rod for moving baits, you really should. If you haven't tried one, you really should. They're phenomenal, and I would recommend them to anybody. And again, St. Croix Mojo Bass Glass. I don't know if you can tell them what my favorite rod company is, but let me tell you, every one of my rods is a St. Croix. I've been to the Customer Appreciation Day. I've been to the factory in Park Falls. They're a phenomenal company. I recommend you buy their rods. Reel on here. This is one of 2 reels I have that are not Daiwa. I got a phenomenal deal on a Shimano SLX MGL. This is the 7.1 HG. All my reels are left hand because I'm a normal person, right? I'm not messed up in the head. I reel with my left hand. I cast with my right, and I don't have to do this every time I cast, right? That wouldn't make any sense, of course. So I use left-handed reel rods. And this is I would like a Bantam on here eventually. If I'm being quite honest with you, I think a Bantam would do better for that deep cranking with that huge brass main gear. I think would be better for this, but for the moment, it's an SLX MGL. What is this? 20-pound Seaguar braid. I think I have a 15-pound fluorocarbon Seaguar leader on here. That's it for this rod. Heavy moving baits with those big, thick jig wire hooks, chatterbaits, spinnerbaits, and deep cranking. That's the other thing this is really beneficial for, is deep cranking. Love a heavy, moderate rod for deep cranking. That's it for this one. Let's get on to the next one. All right, guys, on to number 3 in the arsenal, but really number 1 in our hearts. This is the 7-foot medium heavy fast action St. Croix Legend Tournament Bass Rod. I believe, what is this called? St. Croix likes to give cute little names. This is the all-in. For my AEW fans, they love the all-in model, right? That's a little wrestling joke for all of you guys. But this is a phenomenal rod. I mean, if there's any rod that I would grab where you said, hey, what's a rod under $400 that would be phenomenal for anything involving bottom contact, I would say, again, I'm not a Megabass fanboy. I'm not a Shimano fanboy. I'm a St. Croix fanboy. So I'm going to tell you, it's the St. Croix Legend Tournament Bass all-in 7-foot medium heavy fast. If I'm fishing a jig, if I'm fishing a Texas rig, if I am fishing anything that weighs less than an ounce, that is going to have any contact with anything on the bottom and is going to be fished relatively still, again, jigs, Texas rigs, that's pretty, I say jigs and Texas rigs like it's only 2 categories, but really that's half my tackle that I carry. But they're phenomenal. This rod, so sensitive, so responsive. And again, I'm not even fishing moving baits with it, with the exception of maybe like a light glide bait, which might throw some people off. But responsivity matters, right? I'm not flipping with this rod, but I'm pitching it. And I'm putting deep football heads out. I'm doing all these things that the responsivity of my rod matters. Between one branch to another, if I'm flipping a laydown or pitching a laydown, matters. That responsivity matters, okay? On here, I have a Daiwa Zillion SVTW 6.3, and you might say, you know, that's a little slow for what you've kind of described as like a flipping plastics rod. It's not. And trust me when I say this, the common knowledge is you want a fast reel with a flipping rod, right? You want something that can get that bait out of that, you know, junky stuff as quick as possible. I've found that that's not always the case. A slower reel ratio when you're fishing from a kayak does not make a big difference, right? In fact, it actually helps. If you are casting into the strike zone, which is where you need to be casting, a slower reel, no matter what, any way you slice it, keeps your bait in the strike zone for longer. And yeah, you say, well, it takes me an extra 3 turns of my handle to get that bait back to me and cast out. Sure, I'm not doubting that, but it allows you to fish jigs in the most effective way, because even though, yes, I am slowing it down in that brush pile, yes, I am bouncing a little football head through those rocks, yes, I am dragging a finesse jig across some gravel. With that being said, when I start to reel, that fish has even if it's 4 seconds, even if it's 2 seconds extra to react to that bait because it's taking a little bit longer to get back to me, I've gotten hits like that. I've gotten more hits because my reel is a little bit slower. Again, call me crazy, Call me a heretic, but I like a slower reel for plastics on some occasions. Again, either way, this rod, this reel, this is my number one, cream of the crop. If I'm fishing anything with a soft plastic on it, besides a moving bait, this is the rod I immediately grab. Let's get on to the next one. All right, moving right down the line, I have my second medium heavy fast action rod that I carry. So if I could carry 20 rods on a kayak with me, at least 5 of them would be medium heavy fast, right? That is the bread and butter of any bass fisherman, is a medium heavy fast casting rod. I can't do that. I'm limited to 10 at the most, which is a lot for people. I mean, most people don't even carry 5 or 6 with them. I carry 10. If I could carry 20, 5 of them would be medium heavy fast because it is so versatile. That brings us to this rod, the St. Croix Victory medium heavy fast. This one is 7.5, a little bit longer. I mentioned that I don't really flip with that Legend tournament. If I'm going to do some light flipping, or maybe I just want, this one's got a jig tied on, this one needs a Texas rig tied on, this one has a, let's say, a Texas rig tied on, this one has a Carolina rig tied on. Even though the extra length does not make it a heavier rod for better hook penetration, I find that, you know, there's so many ways to fish a soft plastic, a brush hog, a G-crack, a baobab hog. There's a lot of things you could do with it, right? Or baobab bug. Whatever the G-crack beaver bait is, you should get it. It's phenomenal. I have caught so many fish on that bait. Either way, having 2 medium heavy fast action rods on my boat has served me so well. I promise you, you need at least 2 of these type of rods if you're going out with you on a kayak. So yeah, phenomenal. This is the 7.5. Again, a little bit more length for when I'm doing some light flipping. I'm not saying I'm flipping with this rod. I got a flipping jig tied on it though. And this is the Max Marshall version. St. Croix again loves to give these little cute names to the rods. This is the Max Marshall version. On here I have, for the reel, a Tatula CT, and this is the 8.1 TWS. Now again, I told you, I like a slower reel on that rod, right? My Legend tournament that I just showed you. This is a faster reel. Sometimes conventional wisdom is best. By switching between a 8.1 and a 6.3 or 6.1, whatever that one was, I think it's 6.3. Having a slower reel versus a faster reel, I like to mix it up because sometimes it's a faster reel that gets the job done. Sometimes I do need to get my bait into a strike zone quicker. That's why I have both options. It's important when you're building a rod and reel arsenal, keep as many options open as you have, right? Keep as many options open as possible because you never know what's going to be the best for a specific situation that you might run into, especially if you're fishing tournaments. This rod and reel combo has caught me a lot of fish. Again, medium, heavy, fast. Can't stress it enough. If you're a bass fisherman, that is your bread and butter. Moving straight down the line, we are at another rod. This is another Victory rod. I do love St. Croix's Victory line. To me, it feels like they came out yesterday, but in reality, they've been out for quite some time. They have withstood that test of time. This is the 7.4 heavy action, or heavy power, fast action rod. Because judging by the rods that I've just shown you, you might say, hey, BB Outdoors, you ever fish a frog? You ever fish a buzzbait? You ever fish a punching rig? That's what I use this rod for. Everybody's got to have a heavy rod in their arsenal. I've already showed you a I've already showed you a heavy moderate rod. Tons of uses for a heavy moderate. This is a heavy fast action. There are more uses for heavy fast action than a heavy moderate, just being straight up. If I want to fish swim jigs and we have heavier weeds, heavier grass, this rod. Fish a frog, this rod. Fish a buzzbait, this rod, right? And with that heavy action rod, there are so many options because, like I said, both of my medium heavy rods might be tied up in soft plastics. One might have a jig, one might have a Texas rig. Might get the inkling that they're a little bit offshore and I want to throw a Carolina rig, but I'm not positive I want to switch it out. Again, on a kayak, you do not have the space to be retying constantly. You do not have the space to be carrying 10 rods, 4 heavy rods, 5 medium heavy rods. You need that let me try a Carolina rig on this heavy rod so that if I need to go back to the bank really quick, this isn't working out, I don't need to take 10 minutes and retie. It doesn't take me 10 minutes to retie, but you know what I'm saying. On here is the last of the Shimano reels that I have. This is a Shimano XT, Shimano SLX XT. It is a 151 HG, relatively fast rod, it's a relatively fast reel, and I like it on this. It's kind of in the middle there. It's not, crazy fast. It's not crazy slow. That big brass gear, which this is the closest thing to a Bantam that I own. I love it. And then again, I didn't even mention swim baits. If I'm throwing a mag draft, what do I throw it on? This rod. If I'm throwing a River 2C S-Waver, what do I throw it on? This rod. Megabass, what's the name of their glide bait? Can't remember. Leave it in the comments what the name of Megabass's glide bait they used to make is. They don't make it anymore. The old one they used to make, the double jointed iSlide, the iSlide. Throw it on this. Again, so many uses. Love this rod and reel combo. On here I have 25-pound Seaguar braid, 20-pound fluorocarbon leader. I have a Texas rig tied on here just for fun. I'm not really using it, but phenomenal rod and reel combo. Cannot recommend it enough. Let's get on to the next one. Alright, so now we're getting into more of the glass rods. I mentioned when I did that Mojo Bass Heavy that I have two other glass rods, and this is one of them. This is the St. Croix Legend Glass Medium Heavy Moderate Action. It's 7'4". This is the rod that, if you've seen me on my videos, throw a jackhammer, throw a chatterbait. This is what I've generally thrown it on in the past. Medium heavy does fine with the hook sets. This is kind of a do-all rod. Let's say I'm up on East Harbor, right? And I want to throw a big blade, or maybe I want to throw a mini max. I want variation in what I'm throwing. I want to throw a swim jig on one and a chatterbait on the other. Having another heavier action glass rod is super beneficial. This rod is This rod is phenomenal for DT8s, DT10s, DT12s. There's mid-diving, larger-ish crankbaits. Phenomenal on this rod. There's so many things that I use this rod for, I honestly can't even name them all. But again, moving baits. If you are throwing moving baits, you need a glass rod. That's why I have 3 of them. Again, St. Croix, Legend Glass, 7'4", medium, heavy, moderate. For the reel, I have a Daiwa SV TWS 6.3. Here's where we're starting to get into, hey, the conventional wisdom is right when you talk about reel speed. When you're throwing crankbaits, when you're throwing a chatterbait, you want a slower reel. A slower reel means a slower retrieve, means your bait is in the strike zone for longer, and this comes into play specifically with chatterbaits, specifically with crankbaits, where the slower your reel is, the longer your bait is dragging the bottom, the longer your bait is flying right in front of its face, right? This is a phenomenal rod, phenomenal reel. Cannot recommend this combo enough to anybody. 3 glass rods might seem excessive to people. It might seem excessive to a lot of moderate... Pause. I'll redo that section. 3 glass rods might seem excessive to your modern bass fishermen, right? You don't see that very often. I think it works. I love it. I throw a lot of moving baits. I throw a lot of crankbaits. I throw a lot of chatterbaits, especially this time of year. It's April right now. This is the time of year where I'm throwing a lot of moving baits. Legend Glass gets it done. Fiberglass rods work. You can take that to the bank. Let's get on to the next one. Alright guys, rounding out the casting rod column, this is my last glass rod. It is the St. Croix Mojo Bass Glass 6'10", medium moderate. And I cannot tell you guys, this is the rod that when I first got it, I realized how phenomenal glass rods can be. This is the rod that set me on to glass rods. St. Croix Mojo Bass Glass, medium moderate. What can I say, guys? So when I bought this rod, I was thinking, because I had a spot in my arsenal open for square bills. On the river, on lakes, I throw a ton of square bills. I throw a ton of Strike King X3s, right? A lot of those smaller baits, a 1.0, a 1.5, stuff that does not weigh very much, super effective around here at least. And this rod was what I bought to fill that void. This rod is the rod that made me fall in love with glass rods. Phenomenal rod. I would recommend it to absolutely anybody. I've caught so many fish on this rod, I can't even count them. When I'm throwing a square bill, 1.0, 1.5, 2.0, DT4, DT6, DT8s, this is the rod I'm going to throw it on. I'm not going to throw chatterbaits on it because, again, it's a medium, right? I'm not going to set big jig hooks. But anything with a treble hook that I'm throwing in less than, let's say, 10 feet of water, this rod absolutely rules. Cannot recommend it enough. With this moderate action that you get from a glass rod, you know, people always say, oh, you pull the treble hooks out of their mouth, and some people don't believe that. But there is some truth to that. And I don't know if I believe that you rip the hook out of their mouth or whatever, because that doesn't happen with spooks, doesn't happen with poppers, but whatever. That moderate action rod bending parabolically down into the middle of the rod blank makes a huge difference for you and your moving bait fishing. For the reel, I have a Daiwa Tatula. It's an 87.1. Again, slower reel, smaller reel because I'm throwing smaller baits. It means it has a smaller spool, and then this is just spooled up with 10-pound Seaguar fluorocarbon. If I could spend an hour talking about this reel and rod combo, I would. But unfortunately, I can't right now. This has got to be, you know, somewhat time sensitive. Get a Mojo Bass glass. Get a Legend glass rod. You will not regret it. I promise you. Let's move on to the next one. All right, now that we've made our way through the casting rod section, we are into my spinning rods. I carry 3 spinning rods with me. And this one is the one I'm starting off with. It's probably the one I use the least, if I'm being honest with you. This is a 7.3 medium light extra fast rod, right? This is the, what's the name for it? Max Lightweight. I throw drop shots on this rod. I throw small Ned rigs on this rod. It has a lot of really good properties, but it's only really there just to fill a medium light slot. Now that's not saying that I haven't caught a lot of fish on this rod. I have, because there's a lot of uses for a medium light spinning rod, but if I'm going to go out on the water and try to win money at a tournament, I'm usually not grabbing a medium light, as sad as that is to say. Either way, for when I do grab a medium light, St. Croix Victory is what I go for immediately. I haven't tried any of the new Legend Bass or Legend Tournament Bass spinning rods. I have a lot of Victory rods, but this is the one that I gravitate towards if I'm grabbing a medium light. It's affordable, it works, it's sensitive, great for drop shots, great for little Ned rigs, small tubes. And yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been out on a tournament and it is not looking good for me, and I think, man, I need to switch it up. I need something different. Grab this rod and immediately starts picking up, whether that's a drop shot, whether that's a little Ned rig. It works, trust me. Medium light rods catch fish, and I've actually caught some of the biggest fish of my life, bass obviously, on this St. Croix Victory spinning rod. Even though it's a medium light, it has no issue bringing in 19, 20-inch fish. For the reel, you're going to notice a trend here. This is a Daiwa Ballistic MQ-LT 2500 with 10-pound Seaguar Smackdown braid on here. This is the lime green version, as you guys can see. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna, like I said, you're gonna notice a trend. I liked Daiwa Ballistics. I liked the LTs better than I like the MQs, even though the MQs are a newer version. The LTs were my favorite, but the MQs are just as good. They're high quality. They last. The drag is phenomenal. Recommend them to anybody. Let's get on to the next one. So, do you guys remember how I said that I have 2 medium, heavy, moderate rods, right? As far as casting rods go. I have 2 medium fast action spinning rods because medium fast spinning is probably, and again, I think any bass fisherman would agree with me here, a medium fast action spinning rod is the most versatile rod that you could possibly have on your boat or kayak or whatever you fish off of. A medium fast action rod is so versatile, I can't even begin to explain it. Right now on this one, I have a little Z-Man Finesse jig tied on here, and I can't even begin to explain. I can throw shaky heads, wacky rigs, tubes, small spooks, small crankbaits. Anything I have in my tackle box right there that weighs less than half an ounce, this rod can handle. Perfectly, might I add. Might not have as good a control or as drag heavy as, you know, some of my casting setups, but I'm confident that anything under half an ounce I can fish effectively on this rod. So what is this rod? This is the 7.3 medium extra fast action, and this is the Max Tactical is the name of this rod. And again, 2500 dial ballistic, exact same as what was on the other rod. Love it. I don't know what else I can say besides love it. Alright guys, thank you for watching this far. We are down to the last rod in my rod and reel arsenal of 2024. This is the 7-foot medium fast, absolutely bread and butter, St. Croix Legend Tournament rod. Spinning rod, rather. I love this rod, right? Some people look at a Legend Tournament and they say, like, I don't know what they go for now, $600. That is way too much for a spinning rod, and you might be right, but I can tell you my experience fishing with this rod is unreal. So light, so sensitive. I cannot express how much the Legend Tournament line is good. And it's been around for a while, right? The Legend Tournament line has been around for almost, 10 years at this point. It still blows most competitors out of the water as far as sensitivity, as far as lightness. I promise you, it's worth the money if you're the kind of person that likes high-end gear. On here, I have a Daiwa Tula 2500 CT 10-pound Seaguar braid. Again, this rod, Ned rigs, Senkos, wacky rigs, shaky heads, heavier drop shots, lighter swim jigs, light finesse jigs. Anything below a half an ounce I can throw effectively with this combo. Cannot recommend it enough. I mean, really, it is just that good. It really is. I want to get into what this rod can do, but the list of what it can't do would be shorter than the list of things that it can do. I mean, really, guys. It's that good. What else can I say? Alright guys, if you've made it to this point in the video, I appreciate you more than you will ever know. Thank you for watching, thank you for liking, thank you for commenting and subscribing. Please don't forget to like and comment and subscribe to me. Again, means the world to me. I do this for fun. That some people actually watch this is insane to me, but thank you for watching. And yeah, I'll catch you out on the water. Stay safe and tight lines. Thank you guys.